Hello, friends. I'm Sarah. This is Hardcover Hearts, and thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a little bit since I've gotten on camera in our new apartment to film. Some of it, as you may know if you've watched my previous video, we had a fire in our apartment building at the beginning of the year. And while our apartment was unscathed, half the building was under a tremendous amount of damage. So thus rendered the entire building uninhabitable. And so we are relocated and have a new apartment. It's taken a little bit for me to kind of get organized, and this behind me still is not organized. It's still not in the state that I want it to be. I do have, this is kind of like a little office that I have. I don't have the kind of space that I had before. And so this is not the best, and apologies for the lighting and the setup. Needs must though, so we're just going to do what we can and move forward from there. As I was making that move, I recognized I had so many books that when faced with the question of, do I need this? Is this worth the time and effort to put it in a box and to pay for it to be moved? That made it very, very clear which ones I wanted to keep and which ones I didn't need to keep. And so I got rid of a lot of books. Most of them were books that I had read, and while fine, weren't items that I wanted to necessarily keep. So I felt very good about that purge, and I've been maintaining that. And so I'm kind of proud of myself in continuing to say, what do I need? Is this something that I want in my permanent library? Would I pay to move this? So yeah, I've been really good. I haven't been buying any books until we just got back from our annual trip to Europe, and we spent time in Lisbon and also in London. I met up with a bunch of friends in London and in Cambridge, which was incredible. Leo from Leo's Little Book Life showed up, and we had a lovely 2 days together, which was fantastic. So I went to a few of my favorite bookstores. Foils, always love Foils. Daunt, have a really dear spot in my heart for Daunt because of how number one, it's stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. One of the best booksellers, I think, in the world is there. His name is Jack. And also the way they organize it based on country. I do love to read based on the country and look for writers in that country, especially for travels. So all of that is lovely. And then I hit some Oxfam stores that I love and London Review of Books. I'm trying to think if there were any. I think that was it. And I went to Bertrand's in Lisbon, which is the oldest bookstore in the entire world, and got a few things there as well. So without further ado, let me show you what I got, and let me know if you've read them and what your thoughts were, if you think I'd like them. Okay, so the first is, I love this series. This is a Penguin Classics series with these really beautiful gray soft covers. It's a little greener, like a greener gray than the Persephones. And this is Seichō Matsumoto's Suspicion. Seichō Matsumoto has done a few books that I absolutely love, and they're mysteries set in Tokyo. And his writing is very sparse, very, very clean, very police procedural. But there's always things I learn about the culture through reading his works. This is a tiny little one. And while I wish there was a cover, so be it, it doesn't, but I still went ahead and bought this one. This one is translated by Jess Kirkwood. And it says, Onizuka Kumako, fierce and fearless, is a woman with a past as a petty criminal who seduces men to get what she wants. Then she meets Shirakawa Fukutaro, a rich widower, and soon they are happily married. But their newlywed bliss is suddenly cut down short. One rainy July evening, their car veers off course and plunges into the harbor, and Fukutaro is pulled beneath the waves. Suspected of murder and labeled a femme fatale, Kumako is hounded by the press, but insists that she is innocent. The tide of public opinion is rising against her until a dogged defense lawyer takes on her case. In this intricate philosophical noir, masterfully translated into English for the first time, Seichō Matsumoto draws out the hidden demons behind our convictions, biases, and deepest desires. Like I said, I really enjoy his writing. Next up, I saw this and I thought it looked fantastic. This is an impulse buy. This is Cécile Despairies, The Propagandist. And this is I did hear about this book. It's about a historian from Vichy, France, tackles her family's real-life collaboration during the Second World War. And this is a novelized version of her kind of dealing and wrestling with that complexity. Looks really good. And this is by Swift. And then this just looked so fun. It's Orla Mackey's Mouthing. Look at that cover. Isn't that great? And the back says, "Welcome to Ballyrowan, a village built on talk. Talk about the girl who got herself into trouble and disappeared to America, about the brother and sister who both went mad, the priest who tried to help them, and the doctor who has them committed, about your man going off with a young one half his age, the child he left behind, the neighbor who took her in, and what is said and done about it afterwards." So sounds like a little really wry take on small village and the gossip and all of that. So that looked really fun. Now, the next author, I've read a few of, one or two of her works, and I just find them fascinating, and we can't get this in the United States. This is Celia Dale's A Spring of Love. Oh, these covers are just so great. And this in the flap says, Esther Williams is 30 and single. She has been nowhere, done nothing, loved no one except her recently deceased grandfather. Her life is one of routine and order, following the same pattern week after week. That is, until she meets Raymond Banks. Raymond is unassuming but insistent, and each conversation with him brings Esther further out of her shell. He alters her awareness of the world, and their budding love is soon cemented with a proposal. For the first time ever, she feels truly alive. But marriage to Raymond brings a different kind of order, one of increasing control and possession. When Esther discovers something that threatens their happiness, she's forced to decide whether true love really should conquer all. An unsettling portrait of love in all of its guises, A Spring of Love asks the most sinister question of all. Can we ever truly know anyone? So excited to get to this. Then the next one is part of a series that I also haven't been able to get here. This is A Divine Fury by D.V. Bishop. And this is, I think, the fourth in the Cesare Aldo series. Yes, Cesare Aldo. I love this because it's set in Florence. And I do love Firenze, Italy. And this is in 1539. And this one, I'm going to show you that cover. This one says, Cesare Aldo was once an officer for the city's most feared criminal court. Following a period of exile, he's back, demoted to night patrol, when only the drunk and the dangerous roam the streets. Tracing a suspect in the rain, Aldo discovers a horrifying scene beneath Michelangelo's statue of David. Lifeless eyes gaze from the face of a man whose body has been posed as if crucified. It's clear the killer had religious motives. When more bodies appear, Aldo begins to suspect that an unholy murderer is stalking the citizens of Florence, watching, hunting, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. Really love the character, Cesare Aldo. It's the very first one talks about his homosexuality, and he lives in a brothel as a cover to make him seem like he's a Lothario, but really he's a gay man who has to be closeted because of the times, and just a great character. Then I saw this, and I've been interested very much in the Bloomsbury group after reading both E.M. Forster and Virginia Woolf, of course. And this was an interesting kind of take on Clothing and Fashion of the Bloomsbury Group. This is Bring No Clothes, Bloomsbury and the Philosophy of Fashion by Charlie Porter. It's such a good feel to this book, the size and everything. And Charlie Porter is an interesting writer. I like his approach to things. In this book, he has an introduction that kind of sets the stage, and then he has actual authors talking about fashion and talking about their approach to clothing. So we have Virginia Woolf, we have Vanessa Bell, Duncan Grant, E.M. Forster, John Maynard Keynes, and Lady Ottilie Morel. And there's also images in here, which is really, really great. So this is something I could see myself kind of dipping in and out of as I read more in about the Bloomsbury Group. I read the introduction and it was really lovely. The next one I saw in the London Review of Books, and I was immediately attracted to it because this is something that I'm challenging myself this year. Last year, I was kind of sporadic in my booktubing because work and my career had really taken off. And I, as a subsequent, near the end of the year, got really, really burnt out. So I'm trying to find more balance this year, which is very, very hard to do in Silicon Valley. But this looked great and kind of hits the mark. In Defense of Leisure by Ashki Singh. And it's subtitled Experiments in Living with Marion Millner. Really lovely cover there. And it says, leisure time is when something can be discovered, where certainties are called into question, where lives change. The celebrated psychoanalyst Marion Millner lived for the entirety of the 20th century. By the age of 98, she had written 9 books revealing how free time and creativity are vital for a fulfilled life. Ashki Singh was born 90 years after Millner in Rajasthan, over 4,000 miles away from where Millner lived and worked. At first glance, the works of these two women seem entirely separate. Yet, when Singh found herself standing at a crossroads in her life and grieving personal loss, she realized the questions and preoccupations Millner explored were her own. In Defense of Leisure presents Marion Millner as a writer for our times, in asking the simple question, how do I want to spend my free time? Millner developed a method for discovering her true likes and dislikes. As Singh follows Millner's approach, from keeping a diary to painting, building a home, to traveling to the sea, she discovers the importance of rest, creativity, and play in all of our lives, and how it can open the door to achieving what we truly desire. So that sounded like something that I needed to spend time with. Then I almost got this here, but the American cover was not anywhere near as fantastic as the British cover. So I decided to wait. And this was part of the Women's Prize? No, part of the Booker International long list. It didn't make it to the short list. But this is Reservoir Bits by Dahlia de Cerda and translated by Heather Cleary and Julia Sanches. But look at that cover. Isn't that fantastic? And the jacket says, a collection of gritty, streetwise, and wickedly funny fiction from Mexico. In the linked stories of Reservoir Bits, 13 Mexican women prod the bitch that is life as they fight, sew, skirt, cheat, cry, and lie their way through their tangled circumstances. From the all-powerful daughter of a cartel boss to the victim of transfemicide, from a house full of spinster seamstresses to a socialite who supports her politician husband by faking indigenous roots. These women spit on their own reduction and invent new ways to survive, telling their stories in bold, unapologetic voices. At once social critique and black comedy, Reservoir Bits is a raucous debut for one of Mexico's most thrilling new writers. So, sounds fantastic. One of the things that Leo and I did on one of his first days in London was we went to the William Morris Gallery. Now, I have been to Kelmscott House as part of an Oxford kind of a day trip and found it fascinating. But I recognized that my understanding of William Morris was kind of lacking. One of my friends who passed away last year loved William Morris prints deeply. And as an homage to him, I thought, oh, I really wanted to go and check out the gallery. And I was incredibly impressed. William Morris is much more than beautiful fabrics and kind of an interior designer. He was more of a bohemian, utopian kind of character. And what I loved about the exhibition is they talked about how many times he failed. He would try this and this was a failure. That was a failure. This other thing was a failure. And it's just not how we think, because we know so much about this man's output. And so to recognize all of the ways that he failed and still was so overwhelmingly incredible as an artist, I thought was a remarkable thing. So I don't know when I'll get to this, but I wanted to have a copy. This is News from Nowhere and Other Writings by William Morris. And the back of this is Penguin Classic. It says, poet, designer, craftsman, and environmentalist. William Morris is also a committed socialist, preoccupied with the struggle to achieve a perfect society on Earth. Among the most important of English utopias, News from Nowhere is a tale of the Victorian William Guest, who wakes up one morning to find himself in the year 2102 and discovers a society that has changed beyond recognition. The industrial squalor of England, he knows, has given way to a pastoral paradise where people live in equity and contentment. This volume also contains a selection of Morris's romances, lectures, journalism, and letters, which expand upon key themes of News from Nowhere. So happy to have that. The next set of books I got at Daunt, which, as I said, I love that bookstore. And I had seen this on their Instagram, and so I was looking for it especially. And I didn't realize how actually beautiful this cover is. The book is called Light by Eva Figues. And we have Monet standing in his garden, a place that I have yet to go that I really want to outside of Paris. And the flap says, a glimpse of one day in the life of Claude Monet, this mesmerizing novel captures the nuances of thought and feeling shared by the artist's circle, friends, and family amid the changing light of Giverny. So that just sounds like a delightful book to read on a nice summer day. This one also caught my eye. This is Cécile Tlili, Just a Little Dinner, translated by Catherine Gregoire, and really nice cover there. And it says, in a tired, hot Paris at the end of August, two couples who'd rather still be by the sea meet for dinner in one of their apartments. Etienne, the host, needs something from Johar in order to save his career, but Johar has her own future to worry about. Her husband, Remy, is finding it difficult to keep his own well-guarded secret, and Claudia, Etienne's partner, is stuck facing the reality of her life and relationship, cooking curry in a sweltering kitchen. With delicious detail and a perfectly pitched plot, Céline Tlili takes us behind the shutters of the 7th arrondissement. Fractured relationships, bad behavior, and desperation are laid bare in this contemporary Parisian tale, and what starts as just a little dinner ends up having monumental consequences for everyone. Now, this book, it says, was shortlisted for the 2024 Prix Concours du Premier Roman and won the 2023 Prix Littéraire Gisèle Amini for women's writing. So, looking forward to getting into that one. Then I did an author spotlight on this author, but this one hadn't come out yet, from Daunt. Now, I love what they've done with these Natalia Ginzburg editions. Just beautiful, beautiful editions. Natalia Ginzburg was a writer of the last century, and she wrote between the wars and after World War II, and is just an very straightforward writer. And she writes about life in villages, life in Rome, but she never overtly addresses the political situation, but infuses through the relationships what's happening. And this is The City and the House This one has an introduction by Natasha Brown, who I like very much and who has a new book out. And this was translated by Dick Davis. And the flap says, Giuseppe is leaving his flat in Rome, where he's lived for more than 20 years, to go and live with his brother in America. He must say goodbye to his cousin Roberta, his former lover Lucretia, and her husband Piero, and all of his friends who used to gather for weekends at Les Marguerites, Lucretia's splendid house in the country. But even before Giuseppe's departure, friendships had begun to fracture as frustrated yearnings and past infidelities strained the bonds. The sale of Les Marguerites marks the end of an era, and its old inhabitants and visitors are left to pursue happiness on their own. Their stories unfold through an exchange of letters that reveal with great poignancy the thoughts, passions, and desires of the protagonists. I do love a book told in letters, so this seems to be right up my alley. This next one I got at Oxfam. Now, I'm a really big fan of stopping into Oxfam bookstores and just Oxfams in general, and having a peek through their book section, because you just never know what you're going to find. And this is something I've been looking for and I wanted to read for a while, but I can't get it in the United States. And this is called Hurdy, Gurdy by Christopher Wilson. And fun little book here. This is funny. I was attracted by the gold foil and the detail. And I sent a photo of this to Leo, and he's like, is that a character puking on the side? And sure enough, it is. I thought, oh, well, I missed that entirely. But I think it's apropos, because this says, it is the year of our Lord, 1349, and it's the season of the plague. Brother Diggory's life is about to change. The sickness is creeping ever closer, and the monks of his order must attend to the afflicted. He is about to meet the plague. What he doesn't realize is that encountering an illness and understanding it are two quite different things. An uproariously and uplifting novel about sickness and health, and how perhaps we're never quite as cutting edge as we might like to believe. So this just sounds like a good historical fiction romp, as it were. So through the plague, there you go, a little fun, uplifting reading. Then this is another author that, despite being someone who wrote for The New Yorker, I cannot find her work here at all. This is Maeve Brennan, The Visitor. So if you watched any of my stories last year, I was making my way through her short story collection of actually more essays. And it was based on her writing for The New Yorker, whereas this, I think, is a novella. Yeah, and it says, following the death of her mother, 22-year-old Anastasia King leaves Paris to return to Dublin. In that time she's been away, her estranged father has died. On arriving to her family home, Anastasia is met by her paternal grandmother, who, filled with bitterness and spite, has determined never to forgive Anastasia for fleeing with her mother. As Anastasia's days fill up with little humiliations, it becomes clear that while she thinks she's come home to stay, for the vengeful Mrs. King, she is an unwelcome visitor. Written by Brennan while she was still in her 20s, this novella is a masterpiece of compression, a terse and haunting account of the personal and political factors that impinge on a young woman's freedom. Presented here with a new introduction by Lynn Tillman, The Visitor seals Maeve Brennan's reputation as one of the 20th century's finest writers and one of its most unflinching documentarians of the human heart. So I'm very much interested in reading her fiction and seeing what comes of that. This is another book that was on, I think this was on the Women's Prize shortlist, and I did not get a chance to get it. It was completely unavailable here in the United States, and that is A Little Trickery by Rosanna Pike. Let me show you that. And this one also historical fiction. I think I've gone deep in historical fiction with this bunch. This one says, born a vagabond, Tim Ingleby has never had a roof of her own. Her mother has taught her that if you're not too bound by the big man's rules, there are many ways a woman can find shelter in this world. But now her ma is gone. As she journeys through the fields and forests of medieval England, Tib discovers that there are people who will care for her, as well as those who mean her harm. And there are a great many others who are prepared to believe just about anything. So when the opportunity presents itself to escape the shackles society has placed on them, Tip and her new friends conjure an audacious plan, her greatest trickery yet. But before they know it, their hoax takes on a life of its own, drawing crowds and vengeful enemies to their door. So this also sounded fantastic. And I might read this back to back with Hurly Burly. I mean, I say that, but we'll see when I get to any of this. Okay. So the next two are, I got these at Foyles, and I stood looking at these covers and thinking, what the hell were they thinking? This is Penguin Archive, and they've done this new series where the covers are so random. The only thing that connects them are stark white with red printing on the front. No images, and the fonts are all different. Some more successful than others. But I really dislike the imprint and what they're doing right now. And I was talking with the bookseller, and she said it's absolute hell for them as booksellers. Obviously, the person who was doing the design never thought of what it would be like for a bookseller to have to sell these. I just stared at them. And even though there were some ones that I probably would have picked up, I only picked up two because I couldn't find them elsewhere. And the first is Seichō, A Lady in Tokyo. And I do love these little slim short stories or novellas. The back of this one says, all moonlight is moving wherever it may be. Japanese gentlewoman Seichō invites us to look behind the painted screens in the Emperor's Palace and discover a lost world in which games of poetry are the highest form of wit. Lovers spend each other elegant morning after letters and appreciation of the natural world. Wild geese in autumn, the pure white frost of winter, is one of life's most exquisite pleasures. So it just sounded like a lovely meditation in time spent in days past in a beautiful part of the world. Then I have always wanted to read more poetry, and definitely wanted to read this poet. This is Do Not Go Gently Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas. I do like that cover. I think this is a bold, I like the kind of scratchy effect of the font. It says, luminous and intensely lyrical, Dylan Thomas's works have captivated a generation of readers, inspired artists like the Beatles, Bob Dylan, Igor Stravinsky, and Phoebe Bridgers. The selection includes some of his best poetry, celebrated both inner and outer landscapes in the face of mortality, decay, and human weakness, and beckoning readers to rage against the dying of the light. Together, they exemplify his legacy as the greatest Welsh poet of the 20th century. So that should be fun. But overall, man, those covers, not good. Then when I was in Lisbon, I absolutely wanted to go to that bookstore, and I really wanted to get something specific. And that is this, the Fernando Pessoa's The Book of Disquiet. And it's a really great cover. So on the back, it says, this is one of the defining texts of the modern world. This unique masterpiece, unique because there is nothing quite like it in the Western literature, purports to be a factless autobiography of an assistant bookkeeper named Bernardo Soares, written in notebooks and on odd scraps of paper. The Book of Disquiet was left in a trunk, which may never have been opened. The gods must be thanked that it was. That's from a little a blurb on the back. So I've heard amazing things about this. So one day I will get to this, but I felt like I really needed to own it and buy it when I was in Portugal. And the store has this lovely stamp that they put in that says that you bought it there, which I just think is pretty amazing. I love when bookstores do that. I also decided to get Fernando Pessoa's I Have More Souls Than One. And this is a collection of poetry. So I will spend a little time with this also. Then this looked really good. This is a complete impulse buy. This is called The Return by Dolce Maria Cardoza. And let's see if it was translated. Translated from the Portuguese by Angel Gurria Quintana. And this says, Luanda, 1975. Thousands of settlers are fleeing back to Portugal to escape the retributions of the Angolan rebels. Rui is 15 years old. He has lived in Luanda all of his life and has never even visited the faraway motherland, although he has heard many stories. Long after their neighbors have packed and left, his family are accepting that they too must return. But before they leave for the airport, Rui's father is arrested and the family must go on without him. On arrival in Portugal, Rui, his mother, and sister are crammed into a luxury hotel by the sea, along with hundreds of other returnee families. But these families are hardly welcome in the motherland. And as he tries to find his way in this new uncertain life, Rui must also confront his mother's rapidly declining health and lingering specter of his father's unknowable fate. That just sounds incredible. And looking forward to reading this. And then the last was just like this fun impulse buy. I really wanted to see if they had my favorite book, 84 Charing Cross Road, in Portuguese there. And she looked at, the woman who was helping me looked it up, but unfortunately it's no longer in print. So I need to look and see if I can find a used Portuguese copy through eBay or something like that. But I did try to get a copy while I was there. And I always love to look into graphic novels and comics because it's such a great way to spend time with a foreign language. And I haven't spoken Portuguese since I was a little girl, but this is a book that I used to read, and that was Tintin. And of course, I read Tintin in English, not in Portuguese, but this just made me happy. It's Dicionário Ilustrado dos Insultos do Capitão Haddock. So it's an illustrated dictionary of the insults of Captain Haddock, which I just was so delighted. I mean, it's literally all in Portuguese, but it talks about the different insults, and it has an insert or explanation for each one of them, which just made me laugh. And so I decided I did need to own this, which is fantastic. So that is my book haul. I would love to know, have you read any of these and what were your thoughts? Do you think I would like them? I hope so. And thank you so much for coming back and spending some time with me. I hope to spend more time with you in the future, getting more in the habit of getting back to BookTube because I've missed it so much. So stay tuned, and I'll very soon have a week of reading update coming up. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.